It's 6:15. Let's have a look at some business news. And this, I must say, is one of those interesting topics that affects every single one of us. Now, there are plenty of amazing statistics being unleashed on the business about cybercrime and its risks. Trustwave has unleashed a business password analysis that, to be honest, is a little bit scary. It was found that users typically do not go beyond the bare minimum password length of 8 characters. Nearly 300,000 people used 8 characters. Just over 12,000 passwords were one of the top 100 baby boy names. Over 9,000 were one of the top 100 dog names. 8,000 were one of the top 100 baby girl names. Now, joining us in studio to just talk about all of this is Andrew Kirkland, who is the Regional Director of Trustwave South Africa. It's good to meet you.
Good to see you.
And welcome to the program here,
Thank
Andrew.
you.
Okay, so we're talking out of this sample of over 620,000 stored passwords you collected, and this was during 2013, 2014, right?
Correct.
You recovered more than half of the passwords in just a few minutes, I beg your pardon. Now,
Yes.
that scares me.
Yes.
How did this happen?
Well, it basically boils down to the length of the characters, and as you've pointed out, 8 characters seems to be a policy-driven rule by companies that meet the minimum requirements for users to access the business environment.
Okay.
And using very powerful machines, cyber criminals can build a fairly cheap system using various tools to calculate at sort of almost hyper speed to figure out what those passwords might look like. Yeah. And to give an example, a machine of fairly good strength can typically, through multiples of calculations, etc., can figure out an 8-character type password, especially if there's a massive database that's basically been stolen, for example, can do that in under 3.75 days.
Oh my gosh.
So
okay.
If you had a longer character-based password, let's just say 28 characters as opposed to 8 characters, the length of time that the same machine could calculate those passwords or figure those passwords out is almost 17 years. So it just goes to show that the longer the password and the more complicated the more difficult it is for systems like that to hack.
And that's what you were telling me a bit earlier, is that the new sort of trend is using passphrases as opposed to passwords.
Correct.
Is that a good way to go? And explain that to viewers, because you explained it to me nicely as well.
Yes, it actually is. 8 characters really, in most cases, you know, folks would use an uppercase, a lowercase character, a number, sometimes a special character like an @ sign, etc. A passphrase is just an easier way to remember your password, but at the same time, it gives you the length of characters required to make it unhackable, put it that way.
Okay.
So today is sunny, for example, or today the sun is shining, is probably a nice way to remember the password, but at the same time provide the character length that is required in order to prevent it from being hacked.
Okay, so that's probably a better way to do it, is almost just put a short phrase as opposed to
Yes.
a word,
Yes.
and a predictable word that people will know you.
Yes.
It just scares me that you were able to crack almost 92% of the sample of passwords in 30 days, or just
Yes.
over 30 days.
Yes.
Doesn't it tell you that perhaps passwords are not the right tool to protect our information?
Well, passwords are still the right tool if it's used correctly.
But clearly we're not using them correctly.
No, we're not. That's the thing.
The problem.
That is the dilemma, yes. If you use passwords in conjunction with, in the IT world, we call this two-factor authentication. So you authenticate using more than just your password. So you've got a username, for example, in conjunction with a password. And in some cases, some organizations, to take that extra step, use what we call multi-factor authentication, where you've got 3 elements to try and type in the credentials that will allow you to access an environment.
Yeah.
Very much like your banking, your internet banking?
Yes.
Yes. So
okay.
you go through steps to go and input information. Password is one of them. But you go through other, 2 or 3 other steps to go and input information that says that you are the person who you say you are.
All right. What, in your opinion, is a weak password? So if we had to advise people not to choose as a password, what would you say?
Well, there's a whole lot of them, actually. Password 1 is the most common one, and it's probably one of the weakest and most commonly used one that we found in our sample.
So password 1.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't go and type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or your birth date. People tend to use their birth dates.
Yeah,
and
that's probably the most common.
It is it's one of the common ones. And a lot of it relates to social media. So if the cyber criminals really want to target you or understand you might be the wife or the daughter or son of a CEO in an organization.
Yeah.
And cyber criminals tend to figure out what those names of your family are, and what they do is they run it against a database of commonly known names,
yeah,
right, to try and crack to see whether your password happens to be one of them. And they'll use whatever it is that they need to in that space to try and, whether it's social media or whatever the case may be, to try and figure that out.
All right, so the moral of the story, the longer the password, the harder it is to hack into. Don't use anything that is that just anybody can get, like your birth date or your children's names or anything like that. Just
Correct.
try and keep it away from that.
Yes.
Thank you for talking to us. Thanks for the
You're very welcome.
little bit of education that we've had here this morning. This was Andrew Kirkland. He's the Regional Director of Trustwave, embarking on this survey where we found that the passwords that we're currently using are not good at all. In fact, 92% of just under 600,000 passwords were hacked into in just under 30 days. Now, that has to be scary to tell you that we're not doing this right. All right, let's